Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Now, I don't want to use the title of the podcast given what happened yesterday. So, firstly, I'm going to do a quick monologue and then I'll bring Bruce in to give his thoughts on the game. So, we haven't won at Anfield since January 2016, and that was when Van Gaal was in charge and Wayne Rooney scored the winner. We've only scored one goal at Anfield in that time, a consolation by Jesse Lingard in Mourinho's last game in charge in December 2018. And when you factor in the fact that Liverpool have picked up their form domestically anyway lately, I thought there was always a chance that this might be a game too far for us because we playing in so many competitions, playing so many games every 3 days. I thought we might lose maybe 2-0, even 3-0 would have been okay. But to lose 7-0 was totally unacceptable. The players just threw the towel in. There's certain individuals were disgraceful, like Bruno Fernandes, the obvious one. He's come under a lot of fire today from pundits, media, and supporters, and it's been called into question whether he should be the captain going forward. Luke Shaw's performance was dreadful as well. I actually thought in the first half United were decent, probably the better team overall, and Luke Shaw was really good in the first half, but he just went to pieces the second half. Dallo was atrocious. Anthony was as predictable as always, just cutting in and shooting. There was people who just weren't even trying in the game to give up the ghost once it went to 3-0. I seen a stat that United ran only 99 kilometers against Liverpool, and that's the lowest since, guess what, the 4-0 loss to Brentford. So what was your thoughts on it all then, Brush?
Absolute capitulation, mate. What else can I say? I don't really have words, to be honest. I actually thought we prepared for the game pretty well. I was quite happy with the rotation against West Ham. There was about six changes, I think, in that game, and I thought we managed it quite well. I thought all our key players were rested for this one. Um, I think Ten Hag perhaps woke up feeling a little bit like Pep Guardiola in terms of the overthinking and tinkering. One or two very surprising things going into the game. Bruno starting on the left, obviously, a position he's not accustomed to. Um, I thought we didn't do the simple things. Like, anyone looking at the game, why would you not try to exploit the weakness of Trent Alexander-Arnold defensively and match it up against the pace of Rashford? That's something I thought would happen. Dallo last week against St. Maximin, we know what happened to him. I thought, Wan-Bissaka being a bit more defensively astute, he would have started this game. Um, but yeah, it just what can I really say? In the first half, we certainly had our chances. We didn't take them, and we've been second half FC for a couple of games now, and it was always a worry in the back of my mind that if you come up against decent opposition, you're gonna get punished. But even at half time, I was confident. We've seen this team show grit and determination and fight and to show real character in second halves. And then, immediately we concede again and we were robbed of that. And then the third one went in, and after that, just all heads dropped. And yeah, I can't really explain it. It was terrible, terrible all round. Uh, and everyone that we've been praising as well. It's yeah, collectively they all let themselves down.
Yeah, I think after the third goal, they just got absolutely swallowed by the on-field atmosphere and the Liverpool players. I suppose we also have to give credit to how good Liverpool were as well. That was back to the Liverpool that won the league and the Champions League. They were hassling and hiring us. We couldn't get out of our defensive third at times. And everything they touched just hit the back of the net. It was just one of those days. Even that Salah volley, just goes in off the underside of the crossbar. Amazing technique, but just seemed like they were shooting from anywhere and it was just going in. It's one of those days for them. And like you said, if we had taken our chances in the first half, it could have been a different game. Bruno missed such an easy header. How does he not get that on target? And Rashford with a really soft pass back to the goalkeeper when a man in his form should have been tucking that away. And it could have been a different game if we'd have taken those chances. And I was like you, even though we were 1-0 down at half time, through the silly mistakes by Dallo, Fred, who slipped, and then Varane getting easily turned, I thought that United will come back and at least draw this game because we'd been the slightly better team in the first half. But like you said, the game plan went out the window once they scored immediately, and then another one about 2 minutes later, and then they just lost their heads. For Bruno Fernandes, just totally lost the plot on the day. I know you pointed out that he's playing out of position, but it's not an excuse for. I think he pushed an assistant referee. He kicked Darwin Núñez under a Konate swung an arm at him. I think it glanced him on the chin. He went down like he'd been shot in the face. He dived over Allison at one point to win a penalty. Um, the number 43 for Liverpool come on as a substitute. And Fernandez had a lash at him and then didn't track the run he didn't manage to bring the player down, and he just stood still and watched him, cross the ball in. It was not a captain's performance by any stretch of the imagination. And are you surprised that Bruno got so emotional and was so terrible on the day, Brush?
Ah, he was very lucky not to be sent off, if I'm being honest. He could very easily have seen red. Um, Days like that, it's very difficult. We've seen the petulant side of his character, but you would have thought that with that captaincy armband, that would have been put to a side or he'd grow. Yesterday was just a flashback to much, much darker times.
Yeah, it was. I mean, everybody at United had thought, we thought that the days of getting thrashed by our rivals were behind us. I know earlier in the season we can see the 6 to City, 4 to Brentford, but I thought this team would turn the corner. But this was straight back to the way things were. And arguably this is, we've had a few thrashings in recent years, to Tottenham and City, Chelsea, Liverpool. But this is, going on the scoreline, this is the worst yet. Um,
And especially to those lot as well, this one particularly hurts. Um, for me, like I was under no illusions. I understand this is a process. We're actually ahead of schedule to where I thought we would be at this stage. Um, but there's a manner in which you lose. I expected defeats to come, but there's a certain way in which to handle it. This is totally unacceptable. Absolute capitulation. And it seems as though when we do get turned over, we really get turned over. We end up setting all kinds of horrible records that we don't want. Um, just in the three away games of this Brentford and City alone, that's 17 goals conceded. Like, how ridiculous is that? Um, Went away to Aston Villa as well, let in three. Went away to Arsenal, let in three. It makes for horrible reading. So that's what 23 goals in what 4, 5 games.
yeah, and pushed our goal difference away down. We have been making progress with the goal difference lately, and now it's well down again from
Yeah,
about.
yeah, but this keeps happening though because we go on a little run after we get pummeled, put in a lot of hard work to crawl it back. But then every time this happens, it's just a massive setback, isn't it? It's one step forward and two back.
Yeah, I just hope now that the players haven't lost the confidence that they've got from winning the trophy and being on such good form since the World Cup. I hope that doesn't all go out the window now and we lose several games in a row. I would expect that under Solskjaer, but I would expect Ten Hag to get a grip of this and the players will come out fighting against Betis and Southampton. Is that what you expect as well, Brush?
Most definitely. As in, there's no other choice, is there? That's the only thing you can do. But I'm not gonna lie, this one hurts because usually I reflect the day after and I'm like, all right, we move. But today, feels still feeling quite somber, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've been avoiding as many people as possible today. Um, I was getting lots of stick yesterday from not just Liverpool fans, Celtic fans, Forest fans,
Li-
Leeds fans. I mean,
Listen,
everybody.
I got I got handed a can of Seven Up earlier. I even got a call off my mum, and she knows nothing about football, Carl. And she rang me and she was like, "What's this about Man United then?" Because she heard it, she heard about it on the news.
Yeah, I'd say it would probably make the normal, probably on Sky News and the
Yeah,
BBC
yeah,
news, not just
yeah.
the
So
sports news, but it's
yeah,
front page news.
yeah,
It's that
exactly, and
bad.
it's not a nice feeling, not a nice feeling, especially against those lot.
Yeah, it's the one team you didn't want this to happen to. Like I said earlier, there was always going to be a point where it was going to be a game too much because we were playing in so many
Mm.
comps and every 3 days. But this was the one fixture I didn't want it to happen in, and I certainly
Yeah,
didn't want it
yeah,
to be 7-0.
and that's the thing that annoys me as well because despite the fixture congestion and the 2 games a week and all of that stuff, I thought we managed it quite well up until this point. The fact that there were changes against West Ham, I thought the key players were well rested for this. Um, Casemiro looked as if he was injured. I don't know if he actually did pick up a knock because I know against West Ham there was a quite harsh challenge that went in on him and he looked to have run it off. I don't know if that's the case or if he just played like he was injured or if he actually was. But yeah, he looked a shadow of his self.
But he looked to be injured quite early on in the game, and the commentators had pointed that out. He was kind
Mm,
of limping around, and as you
mm,
say, his performance reflected that. If now I'm not surprised that he played on because he's Casemiro, but if he is just not able to give what he normally gives, Ten Hag maybe should have looked at bringing on Sabitzer or McTominay or something because, as you say, no Casemiro, no, it wasn't
yeah,
Casemiro that we know on the pitch yesterday. So many players like that. Martinez getting easily turned by Salah for one of the goals. I think he was substituted in the end. And you had Jamie Carragher now claiming that he was right all along about Martinez. I think he was just tongue in cheek, really. But so many of our most important players didn't do it yesterday. But you're right in what you said that it was confusing, the team selection. Like, all day long, I agree with you. Wan-Bissaka has to start away at Anfield. When you're coming up against Cody Gakpo, and you're going to be under the cosh for a lot of the game. He's the perfect man. Dalot defensively is very suspect, as he proved again yesterday. Bruno Fernandes on the left was, I don't know where that came from. And like you said,
and
Rashford
a
should,
game like this isn't where you experiment with something like that.
yeah, and Rashford against Trent has proved very successful in the past for Manchester United. So I don't know
And
why.
once or twice in the first half as well, Carl. We saw Trent get skinned. Um, so yeah, it's a real shame that we didn't exploit that more.
Yeah, maybe he tried to be too clever with switching people around to try and throw Jurgen Klopp off, but it didn't work. But every manager can get it wrong. Pep Guardiola got it wrong in the Champions League final and has done so on other occasions. But there's no that if the manager gets it wrong tactically, then you can lose 2-0 and then the manager can take the blame. But when you lose 7-0, you can't blame the coach. There's definitely the players have to take the brunt of the responsibility for that result.
As a collective, they all have to take responsibility. Everybody played a role in that yesterday.
Yeah. But when you, like I said, when you lose 2-0, 3-0, you're looking at tactics. When you lose 7-0, you're looking at a mentality issue there. And
Hmm.
this group of players have done this so many times. Do you think possibly that Ten Hag will have been turned off certain individuals forever after that result? Will he be changing his mind on a few people when it comes to the summer transfer window?
No, I think we have to keep everything in perspective. Obviously, it's an atrocious result. It couldn't have gone much worse, but it doesn't take away from what we've built so far. The other thing is you have to look at some of the players and say, Ten Hag has managed to get the best out of them. So whilst they're limited, he's managed to, get that extra 20% out of them. And I'm sure there will be some changes in the summer. But we'll have to wait and see. Like, I'm not gonna make rash judgments just based on this capitulation alone. Now, obviously, if this has an impact going forward and we go on a losing run, then you can ask questions. But at the moment, we have to just look at it in isolation, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. But one thing that I've been kind of not a fan of for a while is Bruno being captain. Um, Obviously not in favor of selling Bruno because that's ridiculous off the back of one result. But I was never really convinced of Bruno being the club captain, which if Maguire leaves, which we all expect in the summer, you would, given that Bruno has been the on-field captain for this season, you think he would take up the role. I'm not so convinced about that. Not just based on yesterday, but just his behavior in general. Is not captain material. He's more like a player who needs a leader to direct him. And I don't think he's a captain. He didn't lead by example yesterday, and when things were going wrong. Um, I would rather Varane or Casemiro or Martinez were the captain, made club captain in the summer when Maguire leaves. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, same here. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of Bruno getting the captaincy in the first place because I know, the childlike tantrums and the detrimental things that he does on the pitch. I wasn't sure if he was suited, but then he did show me some signs now and again that he's got what it takes, like that second half against Barcelona. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Definitely something to look at come end of the season. For me, I do think the three that you mentioned are probably more suited. Um, Leach are probably for me just because of his age. He's 25. He's always in the team. Uh, Varane will probably get rotated out, right? And he's probably not the most vocal. Casemiro as well is a great shout. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Ten Hag. I don't know if he would upset the apple cart. If Maguire moves on, I expect he'll probably keep it on Bruno and make one of the other three the vice.
Yeah, well, I hope not. Um, Another thing about Bruno is that I think he needs to be taken out of the team now. I think maybe this is just a theory, but part of his problem is that he's guaranteed to start every game. He knows that. And he probably should serve a punishment for that performance. I know you could say that about a whole lot of players. And I would be in favor of ringing the changes against Betis. I mean, a lot of you can't really blame the players who come on as sub yesterday, and you could probably start the majority of them against Betis, in my opinion, anyway. And obviously
To be honest
Wan-Bissaka,
though, Carl, I think yeah. To be honest though, I think Bruno probably needs a rest anyway. He's
yeah,
played every game. So that, and also, um, I find it a little bit concerning that he's the player that always moves out of position.
mm,
You want your best players in your best positions, and Ten Hag seems to be quite happy to move him about.
yeah, I think yeah, one, he needs a rest, and two, he needs a reminder that he's not guaranteed a spot. Um,
Mm.
so on Thursday night, it would be all in favor of Garnacho, Sabitzer, Wan-Bissaka, Jadon Sancho, and a few others coming into the team. Because they're obviously you can't. He's never going to start the same 11 after what happened. There's obviously going to have to be punishments. Um, but well, I wonder what's going to be happening today on the training ground. Is he going to make them run the distance that Liverpool ran further than them, like the what happened with the after Brentford? But probably not. But definitely he's going to have to. I think Luke Shaw alluded to the fact that they'll be watching it back, and he's not looking forward to it. But that's part of the punishment of putting in a performance like that. You need to watch it back and show the mistakes you made.
Absolutely. But then, yeah, I did force. I'm a glutton for punishment. So after the game, I did watch the highlights back as well on Match of the Day just to see it a second time. And just a calamity of errors. Um, I wouldn't feel right just picking on individuals and blaming them. They lost yesterday as a collective. All of them let their heads drop.
Yeah, certainly did. It actually was so bad that I couldn't remember how many goals each Liverpool player had got. I was asking, did Salah get a hat trick? I really
Uh,
I lost
so there
track.
was two each for all of their front three, and then Firmino. So yeah, Salah two, Gakpo two, Nunez two, uh, and Firmino.
Yeah, I know now because I have it in front of me, but during the game I
Yeah,
was losing track of who had scored for Liverpool because there was just that many goals going in. It was just
yeah, the floodgates had opened. It was horrible. But I didn't like, I think when I was younger, I probably would have like turned it off or walked away. But no, I stayed. I stayed for the whole thing. I wanted to know how much worse it would get. Uh,
I bet you the players who played no part in that yesterday, who didn't come on as a sub or didn't make the sub bench, are glad that they can't be associated with that.
yeah,
So
yeah. Also, another thing to address as well. So there's been a lot of talk about Bruno asking to have been subbed off allegedly. Now, I've watched footage back and I've seen no evidence of this. The only person I've heard this from is Gary Neville. Um, and people seem to be running with that. What do you make of that, Carl?
I've seen this suggested. I've watched the footage, and I'm not convinced that he has to come off. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I'm really not. For someone like Gary Neville as well in his position to just say that with such confidence, I find it quite concerning. without knowing the facts. And how do you know from what he was gesturing to the bench?
I know. I think Gary Neville got very emotional yesterday, and that's understandable. Even more so than I think Roy Keane was quite
But
cool.
yeah, but when you're in that position and you put out statements like that, you know what it's going to generate, especially in this social media age. Um, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure Ten Hag will be asked about it on Wednesday, but Um, there was no proof of that for me. Gary Neville was getting a lot of stick from United fans again yesterday. That's when you know. See, at the time anytime there's a bad result against a rival, Gary Neville has some strong opinions. Then there's sometimes
Yeah.
there's a bit of a backlash
Yeah, because
against
I
him.
had to go back and watch it again just to see, and then I couldn't make anything out of it. And then I even ended up texting a friend who was at the game to see if they saw anything that we didn't, because sometimes the camera pans out and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I was watched back today some of the highlights from the studio yesterday, and Souness was enjoying every minute of it, wasn't he? I mean, I hate listening to him, whether it's United against Liverpool or any game, because he's not
Mm.
impartial. There's no impartiality from that man at all. At least Gary Neville has praised City and Liverpool to the hilt in the last 5 years. Graham Souness
With
is pathetic.
them, I mean, I've seen that from all of them, to be honest, at various points. At this point, I don't think any of them are impartial. They just, they have their own agendas and things, and
Yeah, but
it's for views, isn't it? So
But there's a certain level. There's levels to this. I mean, Gary Neville
yeah.
has praised City and Liverpool, like I say. Jimmy Carragher has praised United when it's warranted. He's admitted he was wrong about certain players who've came good this season, like Martinez, for example. I know yesterday he was having a bit of a laugh on Twitter about Martinez, but overall he admitted he got it wrong. But Souness will not admit that he got it wrong about Casemiro. Even before the game, Gary Neville pitchside with Souness was recording on his phone, and Souness still tried to say that Casemiro is a steady Eddie. I mean, that's just embarrassing. I mean, the, and he's a perfect pundit for Talk Sport. Graham Souness. No wonder he's on that channel because it's just a load of crap. And all it is it's just like Gabby Bonor, for example, and a lot of those guys. It's just they're taking the paycheck just to create controversy. I think Troy Deeney even alluded to it in a podcast that he said that when you work for TalkSport, they want you to say certain things that will generate controversy, clicks, likes, retweets.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's basically the Daily Mail of sport radio.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're owned by the same person who owns the Sun, so that isn't a
Mm.
surprise. Um, Yeah, and the same people who own Talk TV, and then I think from what I hear, I didn't read any of it, but I hear that Piers Morgan was taking the boot in the game yesterday, which isn't a surprise. Any opportunity he can get uh,
Oh,
to,
did he say something about Ronaldo not being there? Oh,
yeah, probably. But he loves sticking the boot in Ten Hag because he basically got rid of Ronaldo, and we're going to hear that from now until doomsday. But I can't. That's why I can't wait for Ten Hag to win a league title because then soon, Morgan and Ronaldo can say absolutely nothing. I mean, he went to the Saudi league. I mean, does that not prove he's not good enough for European football? That's have a day off. I mean, all he again, there's no impartiality there at all. He's just defending his friend. I mean, it's a
yeah,
joke.
it's crazy. It's crazy. Can't understand
Um,
it.
so player ratings. This is going to be comical. Um, so I don't agree with the criticism that David De Gea was getting by Roy Keane. He's not a fan of De Gea, obviously. I don't think he's a fan of goalkeepers, full stop. But it's so over the top at times that he certainly wasn't to blame yesterday. But if he concede 7 goals, it has to be a three. Diallo a two, Varane three, Martinez three, Luke Shaw a two, Casemiro three, Fred three, Weghorst two, Anthony two, Bruno zero, and Rashford at two. And yeah, absolutely shocking. And Ten Hag for the Desire team selection would probably have to get a three as well. So I take it you'll have no complaints about that, Brush.
No, no, and I'm guessing Bruno got the zero because of his antics.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
was probably the worst performance of his United career to date, I would say. Yeah,
Yeah, he let himself down in his attitude and the way he conducted himself. Um, yeah. So otherwise, I'm guessing that would have been like a two. But yeah, it was the petulance that drove that down.
yeah. All the things we've been criticizing him for, he did all of them
Hmm.
yesterday. You know, all
Yeah.
the kind of uh, going down very easily, and giving the ball away in the edge of his own in his in the giving the ball away in the defensive third, which he done it again, and the casual passes that he does, um, and then the diving, and then obviously allegedly pushed a
Uh,
referee.
all around the passing was so sloppy yesterday. Any attack
Um,
that we had, it turned into a counter for them.
yeah, it was a joke. Apart from that, the 20 minutes at the end of the first half where we dominated really and should have scored,
Yeah.
we were all over the place.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's what really upsets me the most is that midfield battle I thought would be key. And that Liverpool midfield has been so poor all season. We really should have been our strength. That should have been the area in which we really stamped our authority, and it was anything but.
yeah, what I said at the start of the game was our midfield looks stronger than theirs. I mean, Harvey Elliott, Fabinho, and Jordan Henderson does not strike fear into any opponents. I thought, I think Casemiro, Fred, and Bruno as a three were better um, than those players, but clearly that's not the way it turned out. Um,
Yeah,
so that's unfortunate. We got, I think, as Gary Neville says, we just got absolutely swallowed by the Anfield
absolutely. I think
atmosphere.
there was and there was certainly some naivety from Ten Hag as well going into Anfield.
Yeah, because it's one of those fixtures that even if United are first in the table by 20 points and Liverpool are 10th, it's going to be a difficult game for United.
Yeah. This is what I was saying this all week long. Like, obviously, you does league form goes out the window in this fixture. And I can understand Ten Hag trying to take the pressure off and saying it's like any other ground and whatnot, but nah, this is one of those where you really need to understand the history going into this.
Yeah, I've got to say that the next time we win at Anfield, whenever that is, I'm going to enjoy it because it's been such a horrible period of 7 years of hardly scoring a goal there, getting
I mean,
thrashed.
listen, even in the past decade, we've just held so many bad results against them, home and away. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and even when we beat them, it's by like the odd goal.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah. We never get one of these in return.
no. The most we probably ever get in the next 20 years, we might beat them 4-0 once at Old Trafford. I bet you we will not win 7-0 or 6-0 against Liverpool at any point in the next
Yeah.
20 years. It just seems to happen to us. And we always beat these teams by the odd goal. Like City winning 6-3, which should have been
Hmm.
6-1, only for Martial's late brace. We then beat them 2-1 at Old Trafford, just like Liverpool, 2-1. Um, yeah, we seem to take patterns and beat teams by the odd goals. It's frustrating. But maybe when we sign more firepower, it will get better for us. But one thing that I will say is that Liverpool will win nothing this season. We've already won something, and White might win 2 or 3 trophies. So I take that as a consolation. If if any Liverpool fan wants to give you stick today or tomorrow, that's all you have to say is you will win nothing this season and we have already won something and we're competing for 2 more trophies. So pipe down.
I
So
mean, listen, at some point you just have to hold your hands up. Like, there are no excuses for yesterday, so we're just gonna have to take it, unfortunately. But
yeah,
like you say, I just hope the best case scenario is that this gives us the impetus to now go on a run and yeah, pick up the rest of the trophies on the table.
yeah, and 7-0 at the end of the day is just 3 points. I know you can say it's a humiliation, it's the greatest day in Liverpool's history and all this sort of thing, but it is just 3 points at the end of the day. As if there's no psychological damage, if we go and beat Betis and Southampton, then there's no psychological damage from this defeat, and it's just 3 points for Liverpool, and we move on. And we have to make sure now we can't play them again this season. We have to make sure now that we finish above them. We can't let this turn into a momentum swing for Liverpool where they go on a big run now and overtake us in the league. We have to make sure that we contain
Yeah,
them because
most definitely. I mean, the way the league's shaping up, I'd be very surprised if we drop out of the top four. Especially because Tottenham have proved time and time again that they don't want to be there. And Newcastle has started to slip now as well. And I don't think they have the same strength and depth and quality to come off the bench to replace key players. So I see them slipping down. And Liverpool now, obviously, they're going to have the momentum now to really claw their way up to that Champions League spot.
I do think Liverpool will finish fourth now. Said that to people
Yeah,
yesterday.
I mean, listen, we saw it 2 years ago, when when everyone thought they were down and out. And do you remember when Allison scored that
Yeah,
header?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you what, that was probably the last time I was proper confident going into a game against them at Old Trafford, the game that got postponed. And I went into that very confident, and we got absolutely pummeled in that game as well. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I do see them getting the Champions League spot now, but then I don't see us dropping out either.
We just got to make sure that we finish third and they don't finish third. Because that
Yeah.
would be another slap in the face if they overtake us as well. Because we have to have something over them. You know what I mean? But
Mm.
like I say, I'm going to. I know I'm sounding like Kevin Keegan here, but I'm really going to love it when we beat them at Anfield the next time.
Oh,
Whatever.
listen, I was quoting Kev last week in the run up to this because I felt
Yeah,
like we owed them a beating, and oh, I could not fathom this.
yeah. Bad results. You always want to get revenge for those, especially against your rivals. I mean, this is the equivalent of Arsenal losing 7-0 to Tottenham, Celtic losing 7-0
Yeah.
to Rangers, or Boca losing 7-0 to River Plate. It's just Barca losing
Yeah,
7-0 to
it's
Madrid.
totally unacceptable, is what it is. There can be no excuses. This is why I think the blame is collective. We win together and we lose together. So yeah, the criticism, it's yeah. I don't even want to pick out individuals just like that. It's all of them let
And,
themselves down yesterday.
and because United are Hollywood FC, it's all going to be, it's hard to blow this out of proportion because it's that bad, but it is going to be, the attention on United in the
Oh
next week.
yeah, and I've already seen it. I've already seen it, Carl. There are some people that just all the way jumped out the window, like, oh, it's the end of the world. We're down and out. I've even seen one or two people calling for Ten Hag to go. I was like, what?
Yeah, I seen someone
It's
say
insane.
on Twitter that in principle, this is a resignation result. He
Yeah,
says,
it's mental. Honestly.
Um, I think he's got enough credit in the bank to survive this result, Ten Hag. I think that's an obvious observation to make. He just has to make sure this doesn't turn into a rut, and I don't think that it will. But you'd
Like
expect United.
every time we have been beaten, like we have gone on a run. So there's that. But obviously, come summertime, we need to address this because you can't keep getting pummeled every now and again.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's a big debate in the Sky Sports studio between Tunis and Neville was saying it was this freak result, and Tunis was saying, "Well, it's not a freak result. This is the fourth or fifth time this season you've been pummeled."
Yeah,
Um,
23 goals conceded in 5 away games is totally unacceptable.
yeah, this has to stop. We know the areas we want to address. Um, next in the summer. We obviously want a striker, younger midfielder, right back, possibly a centre back to if Maguire goes out. And whatever other key areas Ten Hag wants to fill. Um, hopefully the funds will be available for that. But yeah, just imagine how good our attack will be if we replace. And I will say this a lot. Weghorst with Victor Osimhen, that would take us to a whole new level by itself. Um,
Probably the hardest one to get of the top targets, though, because Napoli are
whatever it takes,
absolutely flying. They're
whatever it takes.
absolutely flying. Um, and their owners, I think I've mentioned it before, they like to operate like the Daniel Levy of Serie A. So they're going to be very
Yeah,
difficult to negotiate with.
but they even sold two key players last summer, so they will sell at the right price. Um,
But if you look at Koulibaly, though, they managed to hold on to him till he was 31 and still managed to get 40 million for him. Like in his prime, proper prime.
but
They were adamant they wanted 85 million and they held on.
we were talking about a centre forward here. It's not a defender or a goalkeeper. I would pay whatever they want. That's how strong I feel about it. I know people say it's a transfer budget buster, but whatever. And this is the most crucial signing you will make.
I mean, that's the thing for me. Like, it really depends on what happens with the ownership and what kind of budget we're working with. So yeah, I'd like us to do a bit of scouting as well. Obviously, that that's top of the Christmas wish list, like people like that. But yeah, we do have to take budget into consideration.
I also want to mention yesterday that Christian Eriksen was probably a miss because he would have got on the ball, dictated play, played lovely
And
passes
I'll
with
tell you
his.
what, we've largely not missed him because of how well the lads have done. But then
Yeah,
something like yesterday happens, and yeah, you realise,
yeah, he's he's just got that elegance as a midfielder. He's a, shall we say, with all the greatest respect in the world, like a poor man's Modric, if you like. He never gives the ball away. It's like David Moyes would say, he couldn't get the ball off him in a phone box. And his passing range is outstanding. So he would have been able to control the game for us yesterday, a wee bit more anyway. And we missed that. When Fred has his touch can let him down. He can play stray passes, and if Fred has one of those games at Anfield, or it's going to be
yeah,
detrimental to the team. Whereas Ericsson's totally different. So we missed that yesterday. So we've got to thank Andy
yeah,
Carroll for
very
that.
Jekyll and Hyde with Fred. He's got this unique ability to both be amazing and pants all in the same game.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, second half AFC, and we've seen that Fred has epitomized that. He's been terrible in first halves, then really good in second
Yeah.
halves, but not so much yesterday. So just finally, we run out of time. How many changes do you think we should make on Thursday night? I know I
Uh,
alluded.
honestly, like today, I've not even been thinking about football, if I'm honest. I know usually we move on to the next game and we're like, oh, we go again. I've not even thought about Betis. Um, but I don't know. You don't want to overreact either and just be like, oh, you should drop the whole 11. None of them deserve to start. It's for the manager, isn't it? It's something he's going to have to decide depending on how they respond in training in the next couple of days. Obviously, we've got Southampton on Sunday as well, um, and the bottom of the table is very competitive this season. Like 3 points for any of them moves them a few places. So that's not an easy place to go. Um, so yeah, you'd want one eye on that as well. So I expect there to be rotation, especially in a two-legged game like this. So yeah, I expect to see some changes. Who I don't know. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
see Lindelof and Maguire come in.
no.
Malacia.
No, like I said earlier, I would bring in Sancho, Garnacho, Sabitzer, Wan-Bissaka, players like that. Yeah, I wouldn't change the whole 11, but
Mm,
there has to be punishment for that result. So
yeah,
hopefully we get back on track, get a win on Thursday, and then take it into Sunday. You expect us to beat Southampton at home.
yeah,
So
it's one of those. Yeah, it'll be a mixed bag, was it? Won't it? So yeah. Do I see as many changes against West Ham happening against Betis? I don't know, but yeah, we'll see a few.
that's it for today. Thank you for coming on the show, Brish, and I will see you again next Sunday, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully on a more upbeat note.
Yeah, surely it must be. Okay, I'll see you later.
Take care.